From the very edge of the surreal and the paranormal, two men enter to excite your imagination, and with one thought provoke understanding. Open your mind as together we seek proof of the supernatural. Beware of what you find as you enter the proving grounds. For the next 60 minutes, we will go deep into the paranormal evidence to prove and take control of your voyage into the paranormal. Please stand by.
Did you just see that? Did you just touch me? Someone just grabbed me. Did you do that?
Now, join Don Ford, founder of Voyage into Paranormal Society, and me, Chuck Manning, director of Voyage into Paranormal Society of Ohio, as we invite you to prove it, prove it, prove it, prove it, prove it, prove it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Prove It. My name's Chuck Manning. I'm the director of Voyage into Paranormal Society of Ohio. And with me is the founder of Voyage into Paranormal Society, Don Ford. Don, welcome.
Thank you, Chuck. I'm glad to be here tonight. Glad you showed up. And welcome everybody to Prove It. A little bit about us here. We're not here to condemn anybody. We're here to just demonstrate how people gather evidence, look at it in different avenues, and try to help everybody understand what's going on. Wouldn't you agree, Chuck?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's really imperative that we educate, or that we educate each other, really. I mean, if we don't, who's going to do it? So
that's right. Now for a little bit of the lighter side of the paranormal. Richmond Times-Dispatch reported tombstones found in the basement of a North Virginia house. Triangle Street house, where a man was helping ready the home for the rental market, found 2 tombstones in its basements. These headstones of May J. Fitton from 1880 to 1935 and David M. Ingram from 1957 to 1980 are now in the police evidence room in Woodbridge. They're trying to figure out how they got there. The owner of the home said that they were not in the basement a year ago when he was down there. The last tenants left without notice. Elliot Diamond, who happens to be the owner, said he didn't know anything about paranormal activity, but Edward Grove, who was the worker that found the headstones, said earlier tenants left because they heard strange voices, doors slamming, and footsteps on wooden floor when no one was walking. Come on, man.
well, I mean, if you're if someone stole your headstone, wouldn't you be kind of ticked off about it?
Yeah, I guess, especially if they had it upside down and was walking on it. It kind of might make me look bad.
Yeah, too bad there wasn't any more detail about the headstone. You know, it's funny. Well, first of all, why would you take headstones?
I have no idea.
I mean, let's think about the psychology of it. Why do you take the headstone? I mean, you've heard of grave robbers and people who, like, knock over headstones, but, I mean, what do you do with the headstones?
I don't know. Maybe it was David Ingram, and of course, the name of the headstone was a David Ingram, and maybe it was Mary Fitton, and the name of the Mary Fitton on the headstone. Maybe they took them because it matched their names. Who knows? But that's another story.
We would like to know what you think about that story. So shoot us an email at proveitpodcast@gmail.com. And let us know what you think about why the headstones were down the basement. I'd be interested in hearing about that.
Yeah, and if anybody knows personally about what was going on there, hey, send us an email and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have the rest of the story on this one.
And here is our first guest in the Proving Ground. Florida Ghost Chasers, Michael Newcomb.
Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chuck and Don. Glad to be here.
Okay, Michael, well, go ahead and start off by, giving us a little bio about your team, what you guys have been up to, what you're doing.
Florida Ghost Chasers is actually my wife's team. She started it. Team's been up and running a little over 3 years now. We've been into paranormal investigating for years, but actually started the team because there wasn't a reputable team in the area at the time. And we've got about 10 members now that, I count on a weekly basis. Our team does something about 3 weekends out of the month. Working on a case for Don now that is, pretty interesting. And got several others going on. Just done one down Mount Dora, Florida, last weekend. Going to Savannah this weekend to Moon River Brewery. Just doing a lot of traveling right now.
Well, Michael, would you consider your group to be like? Is it just mostly investigators, or do you guys use psychic mediums?
Most of ours is scientific investigators, but I do have I do talk to a psychic on a, I reckon as needed basis from Great Britain was where he's originally from, but he's now here in Central Florida. One of the few that I've ever talked to that I could document what he told me for 100%. But yeah, most of our investigators are scientific based. I've got investigators from the age of 9, which is my son, who's actually caught the picture of the Abbott house that Don has got. You all have. Up to 63. I have a demonologist on my team that's she's 63, I believe, 63 or 64. So I mean, we range.
That's
span.
quite.
I think we figured.
That is quite a stretch, from 9 to 63.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty diverse right there. How many members do you have total?
10 now. I've cut my team. We've cut our team back to 10 people. In some cases, that's too many, but we make it work. And just.
So why don't you go ahead and start? Let's start with the Abbott apparition, and kind of give us a little background about how that came about, maybe even about the investigation, if you can share information about that. And
yeah, Chuck, that picture is taken in a. It's a lot of people know it as Abbott Mansion. It's also known here recently as Caroline's Vacation Rental and Bistro is what it's known as now. It's changed ownership here in the last year, but at the time we were caught this evidence. We had been investigating this house probably. We've been in it probably 20 times overall in the last 3 years. But that picture's took coming up a stairwell to the second floor. And what I know about this place is a lady that everybody knows her as Rose. Nobody knows her actual name. Just everybody knows her by the name of Rose. And the reason that is, you get the smell of yellow roses throughout the house, especially the second floor. But that picture was taken, I don't know, actually with the investigation we were doing. My wife is telling me it was Halloween that year of 09, I reckon, or 10. It had to be '09. But it's taken about middle way up a stairwell.
Now, everybody who is listening to us, if you go to our blog page, you'll be able to actually see the picture. So if you're listening to us, you're going to want to head to our blog page, and you'll actually be able to see the picture. It's the one that's labeled the Abbott apparition, I believe. So you're going to want to check that out. So this was, you're saying Halloween of 2009 when the picture was taken. Who took the picture, and can you give me like some specifics about, maybe the time of the time of the night or early morning, whatever it was? And
I would say it was probably midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning when that picture was took. I'm not 100% on that, but I know, yeah, I mean, we had done 2 nights, so we had done a 2-night investigation there back to back. We had investigated on Friday night and then Saturday night. We started at about 12 o'clock on Friday and run to 5 or 6 a.m. on Sunday. And when I said 12 o'clock, it was 12 noon on Friday and run to Sunday morning. But that picture was probably took around midnight Saturday night. And we had a lot of activity going on that night. But my 9-year-old, well, he's 9 now, took that picture. It seemed like 90% of the evidence that comes out of this house comes from him. And, there's a lot of personal experiences in there, but most of the evidence comes from my son out of that one.
So was there, in the time frame that we're talking about this picture, are you actually presenting your evidence to a property owner, or is this all, you guys are just collecting, the property owner just allows you to investigate the property?
No, at that time we were, collecting evidence for the previous owner. I haven't,
okay. So this picture was in a grouping of evidence that you submitted to the property owner? Yes. Okay. All right. So tell us what it is that you believe is in the picture.
I believe it's, the lady that we all call Rose. At the same time, I've got EVPs. My wife is telling another investigator that, this lady climbs, we'd been told that she had climbed the stairs, got to about the 4th step from the top and collapsed, crawled across the floor and died. And EVP comes back, no, I was on stairs. As she's explaining that, this is how this lady died, and it goes, no, I was on stairs. And then this picture comes out, we find this in evidence from that night's investigation.
This was all at around the same time while this conversation was going on, the pictures taken?
Yes.
Okay. So when you submitted the evidence to the property owner, you basically explained that the picture and the EVP as happening around the same time in order to, verify one or the other.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, as far as the
as far as we're just talking about two pieces of evidence that came from. I'm assuming this is it the Abbott house? Is that residence or?
Yeah.
I mean, why are we calling it Abbott?
We're calling it the Abbott, one of the Abbott mansions, because of it's known here in town as the Abbott Mansion.
Okay.
A lady named Lucy Abbott was originally granted the land in this neighborhood, subdivision as I'll call it. She built several homes in this neighborhood. You know, she was granted the Spanish land grant. And she started to real estate in that area. And she probably built 7 or 8 houses in this neighborhood.
Okay.
This is said to be one of them that, you know, she built.
Okay,
this
so
house
the two
was built in 1890, Chuck.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no. I mean, this house was built in 1890. Yeah, beautiful Victorian mansion.
You said you've been there like 20 times. Out of the 20, I mean, just take a ballpark. I mean, how much evidence have you collected out of that house?
I've got more out of that house than anything I've probably ever done, Chuck. I don't know. It's probably 30 or 40 different EVPs out of it. There's a full body apparition video that there's 2 from that house. The first one I got was of the same, I'll say same lady. When you come to the top of that stairwell, you come into a bedroom. And I have a full body apparition on DVR that in reverse of what happened from the very first investigation I ever done there. And when I was talking about, you know, using psychics earlier, we had a psychic come in and he told us that he was just telling me things about this house that nobody else ever knew. As far as, you know, he told me that she had gotten to this 4th step from the top of the stairwell, fell down, having breathing problems, crawled across the floor and died. Well, my full body apparition video shows a figure getting up off the floor and moving backwards towards the stairwell. You know, when he told me about, you know, what he felt there or saw there, I mean, you know, nobody had ever spoke to him about the residence. Nobody knew about the video other than the team at that time. So, I mean, it was, you know, a pretty good piece of information to come from a psychic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have pictures of the little girl from there. A ton of EVPs from her. We've probably documented 7 different spirits in that house.
And so where can people go in order to see the rest of this evidence? Can they see it on your website?
No, Chuck, I do not.
Okay.
I don't post evidence.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the nun, and because this is, I mean, the picture when I first looked at it just kind of freaked me out a little bit, but so tell us, you know, let's go start to finish on this one because I'd really like to hear about this picture.
Chuck, from what I know, there was a nunnery convent there in the late 1800s that burned down. All but 3 nuns in this location died.
In the fire?
In the fire.
Okay.
Or from the fire, at least. I mean,
right.
And where this picture is taken at, The convent or nunnery would have been located less than 100 yards away. I mean, you can still see the foundation of their building in the cemetery.
But it is a cemetery.
Yes, it is a cemetery.
Okay.
It's probably one of the largest cemeteries in this area. There's probably 300 graves in the old section that date back to mid-1800s.
Okay, so tell us, how was this an investigation? Just tell us how the picture came about.
Our team, went out doing some training, and she had been seen quite frequently out there. I mean, we'd been out several times before. A lot of awesome stuff come out of there before this picture, and just she's quite frequently seen in that area of the cemetery. And there's a couple other pictures of her, but that is the most spectacular picture, I'll say.
Now, what time? So, what time of day are we talking about on this particular picture? Do you remember?
This is probably taken dusk, right before nightfall.
Okay. And who actually took the picture? Was it someone on your team, or?
Yeah, it's my demonologist actually captured this picture. And like I said, we've probably been out, we've probably been there 10 times in the last 3 to 5 years.
And again, everybody, if you want to see this picture, you're going to have to go to our blog, and you'll see the image of of this what they call this cemetery nun, and it's a striking picture when you first look at it, but it's quite something. Okay, so tell us the process that you use. Let's say, for instance, the investigation's over. It's the next day. We're gonna sit down and go over our evidence. How do we go about doing that? Your team.
Because our team is so large and we're stretched out about 30 miles from me to most of my team. Most of us, we everybody goes over their own evidence, and then we all try to get together and view what's been found. We have done some that we all get together at one location and go over evidence, but we try to review a lot, because we rotate teams on our, like I said, it's 10 of us. We rotate teams in a location, and we've gotten to the point that we try to review some of it on location. So that way we, after it's all been reviewed, we can even, come to a conclusion of, if it is something going on, or if it's, can all be explained away.
Have you any other pictures of the nun in that area, or is it always in that particular one spot that you catch that photographer?
I'll say she's always in that spot. When we've always caught a picture of her, she's been in that spot. You catch a glimpse of something, of a shadow, off in the distance out there. She's actually been spotted in other parts of the cemetery, but nobody's ever caught a picture of her other than in that spot. And there is 2 or 3 different pictures floating around of her in that same location. Within, 10 to 15 feet of that tree or whatever, where she's at in that one. Yeah, I mean, if the people look closely, they can even see down to the rosary beads and crosses in her hand. That's what makes that one so spectacular. The others are, a little less detailed to them. You just see the outline of her. But that one is pretty detailed.
Okay. When you review your evidence as far as photography goes, what do you use to lighten up your pictures or anything like that? Do you use any kind of equipment?
Don, I'm just getting into that. A couple use, Paint Shop Pro for lightening. We've just, me and the case manager just started working with a different program. I believe it's Earth in View to, lighten pictures online. I've just started trying to use that a little bit.
And on the first one that you took, the Lady Abbott, have there been other pictures in that area also, or do they see her all over the place?
She's all over the house. I think that's probably the only picture other than the video of her, but that's probably the only picture of her. I have a couple pictures of a little girl that's probably between 8 and 12 years old. And then I have a picture of a cat from the same location. It's a picture of a spirit cat, ghost cat, not an actual cat. And
this was at the Abbotts?
Yes, this is at the Abbott house.
Oh, okay.
There's a cat and a dog there. I have the dog on EVPs. Another investigator has actually seen the dog. A little small Yorkie type dog. But I have the dog on EVP from the Halloween investigation that this other picture come from. Yeah, I have to say it's probably the best location around here that I've ever done as far as evidence-wise. There's everything in this house from the sound of a piano playing. There is no piano in this house now. You can be in this house at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to, whatever time of night and have something go on. Our team had an office and store in the front location of this house for a couple months. And we'd be in there in the middle of the day and sound like somebody was running or dragging furniture across the second floor. To the point that the chandelier in the kitchen dining area was swinging in a full swing.
Wow.
We were the only ones there, and like I said, you go upstairs. Me and another investigator both took a set of stairwells and went up to the second floor. Nobody there. We just swore up and down. This was one of the first times we'd been there. We just swore up and down somebody was in the house, but nobody was there.
Well, let me ask you. You said before that you didn't post your evidence. Is there a reason why you don't do that? Maybe the listeners would probably like to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Chuck, there is a reason that I don't post evidence anymore. The full body apparition from this location turned up on another team's site here in the area, and was claimed as their evidence. Yeah. The only thing I can say about it, they didn't get it off of my site. It did come from, we had turned it over to the owners, but, I don't mind them posting it. I could have been given credit for capturing it, and it wasn't at the time. So that kind of broke us from posting evidence.
What, so, I mean, you say you did post at that time? You were posting your evidence in that
Yeah,
picture?
we were posting a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Some of our better evidence. And after that, we just quit posting anything. There's a couple videos floating around on YouTube. But other than that, I mean, I think there's a real good light anomaly picture floating around on YouTube now from this Halloween at a brothel. But if anybody does see it, mute it because the language is pretty rough in that one.
What, from the investigation team?
Yeah. I have a revoker and he can get pretty colorful.
Yeah.
But that is actually something that follows him around. It wasn't something from the location. But it was at that video that's on YouTube was actually seen by an investigator with his own eyes and just happened to catch it on video. I mean, you can even hear him say, talk about seeing this and, following it with the camera as it leaves the room. But
So the two pieces of evidence that Michael and Florida Ghost Chasers have submitted are the Abbott apparition. It'll be in our blog, episode 1, and it'll be the Abbott apparition and then the nun. I believe is what it is. I think it just says the nun on it.
Yeah.
So those two pieces are the evidence that we will submit to another team, and it may not be the same team every week when we submit this stuff, but what we're going to be doing is we take his evidence and then we submit it to another team, and then I'll make them basically evaluate the evidence as they would as if it were their own evidence, and then they will give us their side of the evidence. So they don't know anything about the story. They just I guess they're just making their own storyline up. But they're just going to take the evidence at face value, assume that everything that they do was done, the way they do it, and then they're going to report to us, their findings on that evidence. So, Michael, you guys got anything coming up? You into anything?
I've got a ton of trips planned. I've got a trip this one in June, late June, 1st of July. That's going to take me to Tennessee, the Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. And then from there, we'll be in Radford, Virginia, about 2 days later, actually, at St. Albans Sanatorium, and then back through North Carolina and home. So,
wow. What is it? So what is that, a vacation?
Yeah, that'll be our vacation for the year.
Really?
Paranormal vacation.
All right. Yeah, Don, go ahead.
Michael, what type of camera was used on the nuns?
On the nun, I'm not real sure, Don. Just a regular digital camera, nothing spectacular or anything like that. It's just a probably about an 8-megapixel camera at the time. I don't think the lady that took it, I'm not real sure. I want to say it's a Kodak camera, but I'm not 100% on that, Don.
Okay, and on the Abbott?
I know that comes from a Kodak camera. Yeah, it's an 8-megapixel camera.
That was the 9-year-old at the time, right?
Yes, and he was 7 at the time.
Yeah, 7 at the time.
Now. He's actually been in the field since he was 4 years old, so and he probably catches more evidence than most of the adults on the team.
Let me ask you, since you brought that up, I mean, this is kind of off topic, but do you find people to be, I don't know, not so understanding about that? Generally?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I figured. I mean, go ahead.
You know, we were doing a talk radio show for a while, and they, you know, at the time we had 4 or 5, you know, junior team. We had, you know, a couple, you know, 7, 8-year-olds, and then we, you know, all the way up through teenagers. And, you know, it was, why are you taking kids out there? Well, where would you rather your kid be at? You know, out on an investigation with you, or out, you know, running amok, drugs, drinking, or whatever, you know. Yeah. 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 I mean, you know, ours don't go to, you know, most of the closed cases, private homes. He goes to most of the public buildings that we do, cemeteries that we do. Yeah, I mean, you know. Yeah, I mean, you know. So we have a lot of tourist places here, and I mean, you know, kids in them every day. So. But yeah, well, you know, we catch a lot of heat off of it. But you know, somebody's got to take it over when we're too old to do it.
You got anything else, Don?
Well, no, not at the present time. I would like to hear the EVP that's associated with the Lady Abbott at one time in the future.
Yeah, we'll get.
Yeah, I don't have them on the desktop, and my laptop is down right now, so I'll have to forward you that, Don.
Yeah,
or a couple of those.
Yeah, do it when you get a chance. I'd like to hear more.
Yeah, sure. Because I mean, I've probably got 10 Class A's from that house. You know, a couple of the little girl that's there. She's singing. She says, "Love you" on 1 or 2. And I have one that we've named Grumpy. You know, he's just grumpy in every EVP I've ever called of him. It's always get out, go away. And I'm not 100%, but I do think we have him on apparition on video. That is, there's an investigation that we done on Blogstar. The whole investigation's on Blogstar, and in one of the episodes on that, the apparition was called. It's listed. You know, if somebody wants to go back and look through the archives of Blogstar, it's listed on the Florida Ghost Chasers videos. Miss Caroline's live investigation. That's probably 4 or 5 hours of investigation there online.
When it was done live, is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh.
It's on a Blogstar. It's a interactive webcam show.
Oh, okay.
Well, I personally want to thank you and your lovely wife back in the background there talking with us tonight.
Oh, we thank you for having us.
Yeah, Michael, it was a pleasure, and we really appreciate you being the guinea pig for this Prove It project.
Hey, could be worse, Chuck.
Well, the problem is that obviously we're going to run into this at some point. People are going to assume that we're trying to point fingers, and obviously that's not what we're doing.
No, totally against.
Yeah, I mean, Michael obviously would not come on the show if he thought that we were going to molest his evidence. But But we certainly appreciate it, and actually we're hoping that it gives people an opportunity to, maybe pick up on something that they don't already do in the process of collecting or evaluating their evidence. So that's what we hope to do with the show.
Yeah, I understand that, but our thing about evidence on our team is if two people don't agree with it, the evidence is never seen anywhere. It never goes back to a client. It's archived in our files, but that's as far as it ever gets. I mean, if we've got two that don't agree on it, it's I'll say chunked out the door, and it was the same as it was never captured. So
Michael, where can people find you or Florida Ghost Chasers?
FloridaGhostChasers.com. Facebook page is Florida Ghost Chasers. I know there's a YouTube channel. I don't know a lot about it, but it's Florida Ghost Chasers also. I think there's a few things on that.
Well, we'll make sure we put all your links in the blog so they can find that. And do you guys Twitter?
Yeah, I reckon so. Facebook is attached to Twitter, so it's done through that.
And after all, Michael is nothing but a little twit.
Apparently, you and Don spend a lot of time on the phone together.
Yeah.
I haven't even gotten the twit, and I'm on the phone like 4 hours a day with him.
That's because everybody knows you're a twit.
Well, again, Michael,
I've been working a case with Don here lately that.
I know.
Of the 5-year-old, so.
Yeah, I know all about that case. So
so we
can't
spent
wait till you
quite
guys
a few hours on the phone.
Yeah.
But the good news is, with that one, everything is quiet, and that's the way we want it to stay.
Well, Michael, I seriously, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely have you back. So when your laptop comes up, you can submit some of those EVPs, and we'll bring you back and have you back at in the proving grounds.
All right, Chuck. I thank you. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Michael.
And now joining us from Dirty South Ghost Hunters is the founder, Maggie Hines, and her tech guru, Sean. Pronounce your last name for me.
Bechtel.
Bechtel. So I knew that. I just I do that every time I.
Just call him Sean of the Dead.
They happen to be good friends of ours and members of the American Paranormal Association with us. So I'm glad you guys decided to help us out on this first episode. We just want to remind everybody that we're not throwing anybody under a bus, and we're not trying to, call another team out here. We're just providing like an educational situation where you can learn what another group does in order to provide or to analyze their evidence. You can find out what tools they use, how they go about doing it, and maybe improve your methods. So this is definitely not pointing fingers at anyone saying your evidence sucks, but that may happen, but that's not what we're doing here. So first of all, guys, like I said, thanks for joining us, and what we're going to start with the Abbott apparition, which is a photograph that was taken during an investigation that Florida Ghost Chasers did. I think it was Halloween of 2009.
That's correct.
And this picture was actually taken by a 7-year-old, their son, who was on the investigation with them. So I'm not going to give you any information because you didn't have any information when you guys analyzed the picture. All I did was ask you to take a look at the picture as if it were everything that you guys use as a normal practice had been used, Basically, someone that you trusted in your team took the picture, and you know they did it within your parameters. So what did you guys come up with on the Abbott apparition?
Maggie, you're going to go first? Okay,
well, yeah, I can. I mean, when I first looked at the picture, I had just glanced at them to avoid the pareidolia aspect of it, because once your mind starts focusing on a picture, you're going to pick out faces on anything else. So I just did a quick glance over the photo, and there was several things I'm not sure I would say were wrong with the photo. Just, what every investigator, and in this case, we didn't even know that it was a 7-year-old that shot the picture, but any investigator, can kind of stumble upon and, make these kind of mistakes. And I'll let Sean go on with that, with the technical aspect of that one, Sean, if you want.
Okay. Usually when I look at other people's evidence, I usually, before I even scrutinize the picture itself, the first thing I do is I go through a very quick checklist to more or less eliminate that it's been modified or tampered with in any way, shape, or form. And usually the quickest way to do that is to look at the exit tag information. And there are a lot of programs out there that let you do that. The easiest one that I grab is Firefox actually has an add-on that you can download that's free called the Exit Viewer. And I actually used that one for this particular picture, and it was still intact, which is a really good sign. And the first thing that I actually look at is the tag that actually says when it was actually taken and the last time the picture was actually modified. And the first thing that I look at is to make sure that those two date and times are exactly the same. And in this case, it was. The next thing that I actually look at is what's called the ISO speed rating, which basically has to do with the light sensitivity rating that the camera was actually set at. Now, in this particular instance, you can tell from the picture that it was taken in a low light situation. So the ISO setting was actually set very, very high. It was actually set at the highest rating for that particular camera, which is 1600. There is actually something. There's a problem with that setting, and I'll get to it in a second. The other thing that we look at is something called the shutter speed. And the shutter speed actually has to do with how long the shutter is actually open, which means how long it allows the image or light to actually be exposed. The third thing that we look at has to do with the actual camera itself. Now, we can look at other things, but those are usually the principal things that we look at, because we can usually isolate pretty quickly if there are any things that are, any known things that might be wrong with a given scenario. And the one thing that we did pick up very quickly was that in this particular case, this camera was actually a Kodak EasyShare camera, and it just so happens, this was just blind luck. My son actually happens to have the exact same camera, although it's a slightly newer model. And those particular cameras actually have an easy setting that allows you to set it for low light situations that immediately sets it to this exact same aperture, ISO speed setting, and half-second shutter speed. Now, the problem that I was getting to is in those situations, what happens is the actual sensor that's in digital cameras have what's called a noise to light signal ratio. And the higher you set it, or the higher that you set the sensitivity rating, the higher the noise becomes. And what happens, and we actually took some extra photos so that we could actually show you this, and I took them with my son's camera so I could show you with the exact same make and model. Well, actually, I take that back. It's not the same model, but the same make. Where you can see the same type of snow that's generated with the same shutter speed and the same ISO that can actually create the same pareidolia effect in the same type of light setting. So taking all these factors together, we kind of immediately started putting things together that it was most likely an effect that was put together based on the camera settings itself and not necessarily paranormal.
Don?
Well, Sean, you're saying that it was set at the highest 1600. Where would you recommend it to be set at?
Okay, normally when you're taking pictures in low light situations, and everybody has their own opinion on this. Normally, if you're going to take low light, I mean, the rule of thumb is use a flash. I mean, if you're going to take it in the dark, then you're going to actually, if you take it in the dark, then you're going to introduce some noise. And if you're going to introduce some noise, then this is going to be the type of things that you're running into. If you don't want to use the flash and you want to override the settings of the camera, then you're going to have to set it to a lower setting, but usually you're going to start running into problems with your ISO settings anything higher than 1100.
One of the things that I wanted to say, along with Sean in the low light settings, is my camera has a night shot setting, which is basically the same thing. And when we've taken that camera out, I always do test shots every investigation that we go on with that setting. And normally anything that I get on there either has a hazy color, or if there's any lights out in the distance, it gives you this lightning bolt effect. So it's, you know, for us as an investigative group, I much prefer that we always use the flash. Even if the possibilities of getting anything are slim to none, it's just better to eliminate situations like this where it's actually a false positive, if I could say that, to where it gives the effect that it is something paranormal, you know, when all actuality, in my opinion, it's not. So, I mean, I would just recommend that they use the flash in all investigations.
Great point.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
That's actually my recommendation, is that they do use the flash. In fact, in our investigations, we do typically use the flash. Of course, always be kind and let your other investigators know
Yeah.
that you're flashing.
Absolutely.
But a secondary answer to Don's question is that you can, on some cameras, also make modifications to the shutter speed, but you're going to have to fidget a lot with your camera in a non-investigation setting to really play to see what you can do with your noise to signal ratio. Because yeah, I have actually seen that, where you can either speed up the shutter speed with the higher ISO settings. But like I said, you'll have to be in, like, you know, like if you're like at home in a dark room and you want to take some experimental settings, you can do that. But you are going to have a haze no matter what you do. But you can. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying you can lessen it with a quicker
shutter speed. Anything else, Don?
No, because that covers the red flags that I was talking about. When you change things, you got to know what you're doing in order for these changing of the shutter speed and the using of the flash would do. Now, there's some talk now that people are removing their infrared filter on their cameras. What do you think about that?
No, you're actually stepping into a territory that I'm not as familiar with. So I'd have to tell you, I don't really have a real great opinion on it. I'm not a professional photographer. I'm only going based on my own personal experience, so I don't know.
No problem.
Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll move on to the nun photograph. This one's probably going to take a little extra time. And the reason I say that is, make sure that you go and check the blog out on Global Paranormal or on either one of the Voyage into Paranormal Society websites. Make sure you check out the blog. That way you'll be able to see the actual pictures, and you'll be able to see Dirty South Ghost Hunters. They actually prepared a something for us, so we included that in the blog, and you'll be able to see their analysis on there. So let's go ahead and move to the nun photo. And so what did you guys come up with that?
Go ahead, Maggie. You go ahead and start.
Well, when I first looked at the photo, I mean, I read the tag that it said a nun photo, and I looked at the picture, and I sat there and looked for a good 5 minutes, and I did not see the nun. I saw dust orbs. I saw, a blue discoloring, and then when I moved to the right of the picture on the tree, then I kind of saw what maybe the tag was in reference to. But immediately, the first thing that went through my mind was it's got to be either superimposed on there, or it's got to be a part of the tree. I did not honestly think that it had anything paranormal about it at all.
And that was just on observation of the picture. You didn't do any analysis.
No, I didn't. I did not run any analysis. That was just observation of the picture. It didn't seem paranormal to me. It just seemed more of like a natural explanation for it.
Oh. My turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. By the way, you guys didn't tell us where this picture came from like you did with the first one.
We told you where the first one came from?
Yeah, you said it came from a 7-year-old.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, this one came from a 63-year-old.
Oh.
or 64-year.
I'm sorry, 64.
Okay.
Demonologist.
Oh, by the way, she's a demonologist.
Okay, well, in that case, I better be nice.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I followed the same drill. I'll be honest, when I first looked at the picture, I did actually scan for it, and honestly, I felt the light streak in the that was closer to the middle of the photo looked more paranormal than the nun. But like I said, I try to be objective. But first thing I did is I looked for the exit tag, and kind of a red flag went off because the exit tag was missing. And when an exit tag is missing, usually it's the first indication that a photo has been tampered with. Usually when you bring them into an image editor of any kind, usually the first thing to get sacrificed is the exit tag. And a second clue that this particular picture may have been edited in in Photoshop or some other image editor was the fact that we found evidence of an embedded color profile. Now, an embedded color profile is basically an enhancement that's usually tacked on by image editing programs such as GIMP or Photoshop, or take your pick. There's a number of them out there. Now, when I saw this, okay, again, it's a red flag, but it's not evidence immediately that somebody has, faked the photo. It could simply be that somebody reduced the size of the photo. I've personally done it myself, so again, I wasn't accusing anybody of fakery, but it does make my job a little bit harder. So the next step in analyzing the photo was to do something that's called a surface plot analysis. What a surface plot analysis does is it actually takes the pixel information and basically starts measuring. It looks at the pixels, the colors, and it actually measures them. Now, since this is a radio show, you're not going to actually be able to see this unless you actually look at the report. But if you go to the report, you'll actually see the surface plot that we did that shows how a portion of this, I basically what I did is I cut out just the portion of the picture that had the nun against the tree, because really that's the only portion of the picture that's really relevant, and it also makes it a whole lot easier to analyze. So what I did is when I looked at that, and the easiest way to read the surface plot is what we look at is we're actually looking at the height of the actual pixels, and you can actually control whether you're looking at a negative image or a positive image, meaning that the lighter colors will be higher, the darker colors are higher. In this particular one, I did the lighter colors as being higher, simply because there were slightly more lighter colors in the image that I had sampled. And what I'm specifically looking for is when you're working with image editors like Photoshop or GIMP, what have you, they work with something called layering. Whereas every single item that you're working on in a picture, like if I'm going to superimpose the picture of a nun into the tree or near the tree, near the stones, I would have to have a picture of the nun to actually put in there. Now what that does is when you actually create the surface plot is it creates anomalies in the actual height of the pixels when you're looking at it. Because what happens is when you merge or flatten out, and hopefully I'm not going way above layman terms, I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. But when you flatten it out, what you'll see is it no longer looks like a natural plane that you would normally see. And when you look at this picture, you don't see anything that totally goes outside of the grid. If you look at the actual report, you'll see the tree. You'll see, the colors of the tree are in a natural pattern. If you look at the surface plot next to it, they maintain that natural pattern.
Right.
And the place where you see a white circular pattern, you see, a rise that matches where that's supposed to be. And you really don't see anything that's out of the ordinary. So when I was looking at that pretty much convinced me that the nun that is in this picture was not artificially put there. It looked like it was a natural occurrence. So what I did is I went back and I said, okay, let's zoom out and look at the picture completely. And when you did that, you could see that that there's a color band in the tree that runs down the length of the branch that actually is the exact same color of the nun's habit. And once you see that, you realize that the nun, the face of the nun, if you zoom into it, is really almost identical to the face. Her face is identical to the shape and texture of the bark. That's not darkly colored. And with those two pieces of information, it's a pretty good bet that basically the nun itself is just a part of the color band and bark of the tree. So, sorry for the long-winded explanation, but I did have to try to explain what all this meant in the report when they actually go back out and see it.
And actually, if you do go look at the report, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, he literally put an image of the graph that was made, and so I mean it's really a thorough report. So I'll make sure that that's posted. That'll be on there by the time you're hearing this. It'll be on the blog. So you're going to want to make sure you check out that. That way you'll be able to see the pictures and their full report. So are you in agreement with this, Maggie, at all? Or is Sean just full of it?
No, I absolutely do agree with them on actually both pictures, and the nun thing is just so weird. But in layman terms, I could definitely see where an investigator would be like, hey, what is that? That's not supposed to be there. And maybe think that it's something to do with the paranormal. I can definitely see where an investigator would have that, assumption going on. But, I have to totally agree with Sean that it's more than likely natural as opposed to something paranormal.
Okay, go ahead.
One thing that was really neat when Sean took the comparison photos for the Abbott picture, in layman's terms, while we weren't able to recreate the exact environment that picture was taken in, because of course we didn't go where they investigated, right. We just did it, Sean just did it in his home. He was able to recreate the graininess, provide enough of an example as far as how low light areas, on those certain settings can almost duplicate that exact photo. And that was really, really neat that, we could do those comparisons. because that kind of helps investigators out as well. And like you said at the starting, we're not here to bash anybody's work or anything, but provide a learning environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean, you're going to make sure you're going to get me those pictures?
Oh, yeah, I'll go ahead and send them to you.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. You're all right no matter what Maggie says about you. All right. Before we let you guys go, by the way, just to let everybody... Oh, I'm sorry, Dawn. Did you have anything else? Yo, Dawn. I don't know. Maybe he had a phone call or something.
No. I'm right here.
Oh,
I dropped my papers. What I was going to say was both Sean and Maggie are both saying that they don't consider this a blatant try of doctoring pictures to make them be a paranormal picture, but just a misinterpretation of what the people are picking up. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's such a common thing that, when you're reviewing evidence, after you've looked through 500 photos and gotten, 5 hours of sleep from the investigation before, it's so common to make those mistakes when you're looking at them.
And
That's
I can
great.
tell you, I can tell you from my own experience after going through 200 or 300 photos, when you see one that has an inkling that you just really want to jump on it and go crazy, but then it's like you really have to calm down, sit back, and go through it with a fine-tooth comb, because 9 times out of 10 you're going to be disappointed.
So is there a procedure or a book that you could recommend that would help newcomers to the field to better evaluate their pictures?
Well, the one thing that I would recommend is just basically from 2 things I recommend. Number one is get to know your camera and be very intimate with it. And that means play with all the manual settings. Take pictures like crazy. You should know what every single setting does. In fact, I'll be honest with you. There were some, I use a Canon SureShot 8590. And there are still some settings that I'm not familiar with. It has a book that's about, I'd say about half an inch thick. If I actually would go through the 3-language one, it's even thicker. But that on the manual setting, most of the time, a lot of paranormal groups will tell you just leave it on the auto, because the auto is usually the one that's the safest. And personally, I'll tell you, if you use the flash, they're usually right. Okay, if the flash is on, the auto setting is usually the safest way to go. But if you're going to work in areas where you want to take some risks and play with the manual settings you're on your own, then you're also going to have to really educate yourself and know your camera inside and out. That's the first piece of advice. The second piece of advice is not necessarily a book, but you can go online and just become familiar with a lot of the terminology, because let's put it this way, if you start to get to know your camera, you're going to hit some terms you're not going to understand, like we were just talking about it before, shutter speed. How does shutter speed impact your photo? How does the ISO setting impact your photo? What's the aperture? And just doing just a few Google searches and spending a few hours on the internet can really educate you on enough that you can understand how those settings are going to impact your photos, and at least give you a heads up on your analysis.
Great advice.
Excellent advice.
One thing I'd like to add is, we as investigators, we want to find this proof so bad that, we do end up getting a lot of false positives, as I said before, because we do want to have, that holy grail of a picture or an EVP or video. We want that so bad that, we make mistakes. We don't pay as good of attention as we should. And one of the things is be patient. when you're reviewing your photos and your audio, be patient and take breaks, because it will drive you mad. If you're sitting there for 4 hours listening to audio and then you've got 500 pictures to go through, you're really going to need some breaks. And it's always better to have a second set of eyes or a third set of eyes to go over those photos as well.
Excellent.
I couldn't agree more. Just to let everybody know, our lead-in music, that sexy paranormal voice, that's Maggie. She's the voice of Prove It. So we definitely want to thank Maggie for doing that for us. So that was nice of her. I'll tell you what, guys. I mean, that's amazing. The information that Sean and Maggie provided, not only for the blog but here for the podcast. I mean, I know we'll be getting tons more useful information out of them as the series continues. But so what do you guys got something coming up, Dirty South? You got any events or investigations, anything going on?
Sean, we're looking at doing a possible investigation. I believe it's 2 weeks from now. And then hopefully we will be heading back to the Jerome Grand Hotel. Sean wasn't with us when we investigated there in 2008, but hopefully we will be able to go back and reinvestigate that big beauty up there in Jerome, Arizona. And that's about it for DSGH right now.
So give us your websites and your Facebooks and your Twitters.
You can reach us on our website at www.dirtysouthghosthunters.com. You can tweet us on Twitter at DirtySouthGH. And that's about it. You can pretty much find Sean and I on the website. Oh,
literally on the website?
No, not literally. Gosh.
Oh, okay.
Man. No, you can also check us out on Facebook, Dirty South Ghost Hunters. We're on Facebook as well.
Yeah, Sean, where can we find you other than the brothel?
I was going to say, and I'm always causing trouble on Global Paranormal.
Yeah, he has got a set up residence there. I run into him all night long. So Maggie's constantly Twittering us and giving me the red face. She's always making me put innuendo out there on Twitter. So we have a lot of fun with them. So, hey, I want to thank you guys again for being on. I mean, this information is invaluable, not just to me because I'm a paratard, as it were, but for the guy. I mean, even the experienced paranormal researchers, it just gives them another way of looking or reviewing their own evidence. So again, thanks a lot, guys. You guys always great information from you. So we'll probably use you a lot.
Use us and abuse us. We like it.
Yeah, I heard that about you, Maggie. I'm not so sure about, but.
I charge.
Yeah. That's a different website and a totally different podcast, but we'll cover that later.
That's another subject.
So did we prove anything? I'm going to have to say I'm going to have to side with Sean and Maggie and my personal feeling is that we did. But we really want to know what your opinion is. So shoot us an email at proveitpodcast@gmail.com and let us know what you think. All the evidence is posted at voyageintoparanormal.com, and just click on the Prove It link, and you'll be able to see all the evidence that was the actual pictures. You'll be able to see the pictures that Sean took, the comparison photographs, and you'll actually be able to see the actual report that Dirty South submitted to us, and make your own judgment. Let us know. I mean, maybe if you come up with something different, then you'll be the one to have proved it. So with some final thoughts, Don, you want to go ahead and...
Sure. What ifs? Although we all live in a plastic world for everyone to see, what if the world leaders had lied to us all these years, and they knew about the ETs, the UFOs, and about much, much more? What if everything we knew about the paranormal was wrong? What if there was no life after death? That aliens walk among us today, right here on Earth? Are we so vain to believe that we're the only intelligent life in this solar system, in our universe? What if we just happen to take advantage of our ability to ask questions, to seek out the answers for ourselves, not to accept information that some supply? I believe it's a task of mankind to participate in life and to look, to see for ourselves, and to continue to gain knowledge and seek out the truth. After all, aren't we all creatures of mankind? I know I'd like to thank everyone for tonight's episode. Chuck, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. I had a lot of fun with this, and I'm really looking forward to the next few shows that we already have lined up in our heads. That's a scary thought in itself, but
kind of a little short on the dip side.
So yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope we've managed to dispel some of the whispers that were going on about what this show was going to be doing, and people understand that we're actually educating people. It's not what they thought it was. That's my hope anyway. But we want you all to tune in next week when we try to settle a team's own dispute between some EVP evidence they captured. This is going to be a really good one. And a couple of team members are bickering back and forth on some evidence that they collected, and they're going to throw it in the proving ground for us to prove. So
yeah, it's like he said, she said type of deal.
That's right. So it's going to be fun to kind of help them see if we can straighten that out for them. So make sure you tune in next week. Tune in next week for that one. Make sure you get to voyageintoparanormal.com and just click on the Prove It link, and you'll be able to see all the blog posts, all the information from this program and any future program. And you can also catch us on Global Paranormal. We've got a group there under Prove It. So make sure you get there. The same information is posted there. And please make sure that you send your questions or comments, anything you have, to proveitpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you'd like to be on our show, send us your evidence. We'll see to it that you're here. Again, welcome to the Proving Ground. The future is bright.